What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Pick Six podcast. Katie Mox and Will Brinson here, joined by the czar of the playbook, Emory Hunt. If you missed the last episode, we broke down week 2 of the preseason and gave our best bets for each. We had a full house on that episode. You can watch it on YouTube or the audio version, wherever you get your podcast. Go ahead and hit subscribe on both of those so you don't miss another episode. Today, we're looking into the future and locking in some NFL regular season awards. Fellas, how did we do on our week 2 NFL bets?
Hard.
It's preseason, like you find out day of.
I know.
Oh, yeah,
I think I went 2 or 3.
Like 40 of these guys not dressing. Like, well, thanks, coach.
Yeah.
I needed to know that early in the week.
Yeah, I thought that one of the things that was like frustrating was it was hard to sort of get a handle on. I think it's still hard to get a handle on like week 2 because it's like basically the new week 3. Sorry, I got like something in my eye. I think I have a sty of some sort, which is probably
no.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just keep pumping it with hot water; it'll go away eventually. But
you could try tea bags too, like a green tea, something with caffeine will help.
I'll just go out and get. Yeah.
Don't say it. Don't say it. That's not what I was saying. I was offering you a holistic approach to your
whole,
sty.
Yeah.
You don't want pink eye. You want, you know what I'm saying? Try to get rid of something. You don't want
Not what I said. Not what I said. Anyways.
So much for the banter. Anywho.
It's hard to get a hold on week 2.
Yeah, I now I can't remember what I had in week 2, but I think I did great.
You said it was like it's just like week 3.
Oh yeah, get hold of week 2. Like I still don't think that we have a whole like a firm grasp on like the preseason and like how coaches are going to handle it because like Patrick Mahomes plays right in week 2 now instead of week 3, and so like week 2 is kind of being treated as like the new week 3, but I also think it's like it's not consistent from coaching staff to coaching staff. You have some of these newer coaching staffs who do things differently, and it's just sort of. It's hard to get a full grasp on, I think.
All right, Emory's just looking at us like, yes.
No, I said I did horrible. I did. Matter of fact, I even did horrible in my CFL pick. I went 1-3 this week.
That is unlikely.
But did your bonus bet win, or did we?
Which
did
one
the
was
Edmonton
that?
Elks?
Yes, they did win.
Okay.
They did. Not only did they win, they blew them out.
Okay.
Fire everybody except DROY Simon in Edmonton. Fire him.
Hey.
Today.
By the way, Niners money line and Niners over cashed money line just by 1 point there, Emory. You were on that. That was a fun game. Obviously, I always want to talk about the 49ers. Curious what you guys thought.
Panthers Giants under did not cash by 1 point. Unbelievable.
Oh, bad beat. But what'd y'all think of Trey Lance? Because he actually looked pretty good. He gets a lot of hate left and right. Emory, any thoughts on how Trey looked?
With the preseason, and I've said this before, like, it matters until it doesn't matter, but it also still matters.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You can only go out there and play with whom you're playing with and against. And if you perform well, that's good. If you perform bad, that's telling. You know what I'm saying? Like, so whatever the tape says is what the tape says. You want to go out there and perform well. And considering what he did in that, the time he was out there, I thought he did well, especially considering he had to come back and drive them down the field to get the win. No matter we cheer this in practice when it happens, so why not cheer it in a preseason game? So I just feel like even with an Aiden O'Connell, you like that these guys are going out there and playing well, because otherwise you don't want to put out bad tape, because that's also telling.
Well, it's sort of like exactly. It's like you're supposed to play well.
Yeah.
Right. And I also think competition matters too. Like the Panthers, where they score 19 against the Giants. Not that they were great offensively or anything like that, but I think anybody who's playing the Jets, right? Buccaneers scored 13, but that's not a ton. Jets scored 6. It's just like the Jets defensive line is just a problem, and they're not afraid to blitz. And you saw it like with the Giants too, like Wink Martindale's not afraid to blitz. So it's difficult to, it's kind of difficult to be able to assign like how much value each preseason game is worth in particular. I actually went 2-2 on my 4 bets. Chiefs covered easily, 38-10, beat down to the Cardinals. And again, like people were like, "Oh, Patrick Mahomes is going to play." Well, he went 10-15 and for 105 and a touchdown. Like he played a lot, right? I mean, that's what Andy Reid is going to do. It's what he's shown us he's going to do. The Raiders covered easily. Should not have taken the Lions, and then that Giants Panthers Friday night under. Just annoying that went over that total. So I'll take 2-2. Not bad.
Yeah, Emory, you got me on that over in the Packers game, but I will say I was right about the Packers. They did not play as well, did not score as many points, but that game sailed over the 37. So you got me on that one. All right, guys, let's get into some season awards here, starting at the top with league MVP. But before we do, got a couple trivia questions for both.
Now
of you.
the real question is, will you use? Like if I had to guess your two trivia, I have two guesses for what I think your trivia questions will be. I have no idea. I have no idea what they are. Is that
guess
inappropriate to guess?
Guess one of them's easy and one of them's a little bit harder. Guess what the first one is.
I think I'm going to guess your specific questions.
Wow.
I think you will ask who was the last running back or who was the last non-quarterback to win MVP.
No.
Okay. The answer is Adrian Peterson, 2012. And then the other one is.
Are you trying to, because you know that Emory's the football encyclopedia, are you trying to get in front of it and just get some stuff right off the bat?
Yeah. I'm trying to look smart early before. Yeah. And then the other is going to involve a kicker in the strike shortened season.
No.
Mark
82
Mosley.
87. Which one? 82 87.
87. Mark Mosley, the only kicker to win MVP in the history of the league. So no, neither one of those.
No. Okay. The first one is like a super easy layup.
All right.
So who has won the most MVP awards in the league?
Wow.
Or maybe it's not an easy layup. Wow.
Isn't it like a three-way tie?
No.
Or is there somebody with 5? Who's got 5? Is it Manning has 5? Peyton's got 5?
Manning has 5. Peyton Manning with 5. All right.
But Rodgers has 4. Favre has 3 or 4?
3.
Yeah, Favre has 3, and then Brady has 3 or 4.
3 or 4. Yeah. Well, Peyton has the most at 5. That's what 5. I know here.
Wow.
All right. So before they changed the name to be the most valuable player, the award was called what from 1938 to 1946?
Most outstanding.
That's a good guess. It's this one's hard. It's the Joe F. Carr Trophy.
Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah, that's what it was called from 1938 to 1946.
The best football player of the year. Yes,
I don't want to know who Joe F. Carr was.
I was gonna say, don't ask me.
Probably gonna hate him if we dug up. Like, probably gonna find out he did something nefarious back in that era. So, not interested in hearing what he was.
I know where Joe F. Carr blocked everybody on Twitter too. Poor Derek Carr. Poor Derek. I know that's what I was gonna say. Elon Musk is getting rid of the block button. Derek Carr's life. Welcome to hell, Derek. We're all back, son.
All right. Well, Patrick Mahomes is the favorite to win the MVP this year, to go back to back 6-1 after winning both MVPs last year, both the league and the Super Bowl, and winning the Super Bowl as well. He's followed by Burrow, Allen, who are both tied. I can't see the odds on the screen here.
Burrow is plus 750. Allen's 8.5 to 1. Hurts 11 to 1. Herbert 12. Lamar Jackson 15 to 1, along with Trevor Lawrence at that same number. Rodgers 16 to 1. Justin Fields 20 to 1. Dak Prescott 22 to 1, and Tua at 22 to 1. Those are all the quarterbacks under 25 to 1.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Brinson. You wrote several articles on CBSSports.com breaking down these award markets, and you've tiered them as a favorite, a mid-range, and a long shot. So we'll follow your lead here. Okay.
So the way I did this for the CBSSports.com article, and these came out a couple weeks ago, so the odds may have shifted a little bit. Probably use Caesars. The DraftKings odds fine here, but what I wanted to do is pick one player from 25 to 1 or lower. And I sort of adjusted these depending on the award and depending on the circumstances. Like, and we'll talk about it in a minute. Damar Hamlin minus 285 to win comeback player of the year, right? Like, so that market is completely different than this market. Then I took 25 to 50, I think, and then 50 to 1 or longer. Maybe it's 25 to 40, but something like that. Trying to find mid-range shot and then a long shot. Now, look, as I mentioned, the last quarterback, a non-quarterback to win MVP, Adrian Peterson in 2012, and then you had 2006, LaDainian Tomlinson before that. You should not wager your money on non-quarterbacks, in my opinion. It is like, we can say Justin Jefferson. Yeah, it's possible. Like a long shot. Christian McCaffrey. Think about it. Christian McCaffrey, 11 to 1 to win Offensive Player of the Year, and like 90 to 1 to win MVP. That's because that's just how these guys vote. Now, in a weird year where no quarterback distinguishes himself, it is possible for something to happen. I think it is still unlikely. As I pointed out on Dave Damashek's Extra Points pod on the Omaha Network, that Peyton Manning, when he didn't win in 2012, probably gave an earful to a lot of voters. And then since then, we've seen only quarterbacks. So my quarterback choice inside of 20 to 1 or inside of 25 to 1, Trevor Lawrence. Now, Trevor Lawrence, not as good as Patrick Mahomes, not as good as Joe Burrow, not as good as Josh Allen so far in their NFL careers, not as good as Jalen Hurts. Now, I would take Trevor Lawrence over Jalen Hurts. I would take Trevor Lawrence over Justin Herbert. Lamar Jackson already won an MVP, right? Aaron Rodgers won several. The reason Justin Fields at 20 to 1 is a joke, just because the Bears aren't very good. Trevor Lawrence at 15 to 1. Here's the reason why.
Okay.
If you look at the quarterbacks in this top tier, Mahomes and Justin Herbert in the same division, Josh Allen and Tua Tagovailoa in the same division, Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen in the same division, like Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow in the same division. Every single one. There's 6 quarterbacks from the AFC in the same division. Trevor Lawrence, the only one by himself. The Jaguars have an easy schedule. The Jaguars have a good look at the number 1 overall seed. You have to win your division and likely get the number 1 seed to win the MVP. Their defense might not be great this year. I think Trevor Lawrence can absolutely put up the numbers in a second year in Doug Peterson's system to win MVP. I wish this was like 25 to 1, which is what it should be. These markets are not great, but such is life. Middle of the road guys, I think you kind of have to rule out Deshaun Watson. I just don't think the voters will give him the award this close to that off-field stuff. Geno Smith at 40 to 1, too short. Jared Goff, kind of interesting. I think that I ultimately went with Russell Wilson, which I know seems insane. But if Russ plays really well and Sean Payton coaches him up and that team is good and they steal the division from the Chiefs, at 45 to 1, you were getting some serious value with a guy who has had a Hall of Fame career for the most part. And then for my long shot, of course, I went with Matthew Stafford. Unlikely to win. 6.5 win total for the Rams. But this is a guy who has put up MVP numbers before. He did it 2 years ago, like in terms of 40 touchdowns, 4,500 passing yards, whatever it was. Maybe San Francisco's quarterback situation is a disaster. Maybe they deal with injuries. The Rams pop back up. They got Sean McVay still, Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp. Maybe they steal a division, and then all of a sudden Stafford's in that mix.
Emory.
I would probably lean. I'm going to go Lamar Jackson as the favorite because it's funny when you watch Lamar, and I've said this ad nauseum. Whenever he's out there, they end up being 8-2. The number 1 seed in the AFC, and he's leading the MVP votes. And then the last 2 years, he's gotten hurt, and then, things go to what. But it's strange that he's always out there at the number 1 seed, leading the MVP votes with, Mo Larry and Curley at wide receiver. And so now he has great weapons, a newfound passing attack where they're going to actually spread the field and pepper guys with targets. So I like him as a favorite. My mid-range is Aaron Rodgers strictly because, media will talk about Rodgers ad nauseum, and don't let the Jets have a winning season. Like Rodgers will get it,
They are. They are, Emory.
This would be minus whatever, just like DeMar Hamlin winning comeback player of the year.
Yeah.
Already be minus whatever for Aaron Rodgers. So that's my mid-range. My long range for a lot of what Will talked about, but I also believe this player is still fantastic, a top 8 quarterback in this league, Deshaun Watson. And I expect the Browns to be good. I expect the Browns to be in the playoffs. I expect them to finish second in that division. So Watson, to me, would be the long shot that I would, lay some money on. But Lamar, then Aaron Rodgers, and then Deshaun Watson for the long shot.
I like those. I think when you look at the favorite, I'm not afraid to go chalk here with Mahomes at plus 600, even to go back to back. I don't think we've seen the ceiling for Mahomes. And as long as the Chiefs are still the Chiefs and you still have Reed as the coach and you still have the best tight end in the league and Travis Kelce and the best quarterback in the league, I don't think it's impossible that he goes back to back there. Middle range, I'm agreeing with Emory here and taking Aaron Rodgers. Neither of you are that high on the Jets, but I certainly am. I like them over their win total. I have been watching them on Hard Knocks. Maybe I'm drinking a little bit of the Kool-Aid here, but we just seems like we have a different Aaron Rodgers. He has won this award several times. He has some weapons there. I think that Garrett Wilson is special, and we're going to see a lot of crazy things from the two of them this year. So I like him. I took my odds earlier from Caesars at plus 1,500. I'm not sure what it is on the DraftKings graphic. And then for the long shot, no one's going to have as long of shots as Brinson does here, because that is his specialty here are these long shots. But I actually kind of like Justin Fields at plus 2,500, or I don't know what it is here.
He's 20 to 1 now.
20 to 1 now, yes, on this screen. And look, I'm higher on the Bears than most people are. I do think that, Justin Fields is going to have a breakout year, specifically in the passing game. We know what this guy can do with his legs. You got him some pass catchers with DJ Moore. We've already seen some cool stuff come out of training camp from them. I like Eberflus also as coach of the year. So if the Bears win their division and we see Justin Fields take a huge step up, coming from being the worst team in the NFL last year, I do think that is a pretty good bet.
The problem for me with Fields is that it's like they were the worst team in football and they have to win 12 games to win the MVP, I think. But I understand why he has been a popular bet, because the Bears, you get DJ Moore, you see, we see these preseason games and they improve the offensive line. There's all these different reasons. I think it's almost maybe more likely that I would want to get involved in Justin Fields for Offensive Player of the Year, just because he can be explosive, exciting. He can do all this stuff. And it's like, so Offensive Player of the Year. And like, look, I talked about the quarterback factor with the MVP. When you bet on these awards, and I mentioned this ad nauseum. God, my eye looks awful. Sorry. I just realized.
Well, you know what to do.
Yeah, but that's right. Teabag myself. Just get a little teabag action going. Yeah, I think that the thing that you want to do is figure out what is the archetype for who's won these awards in years past, right? And so for Offensive Player of the Year, which we're now looking at, like MVP is easy, right? It's the best quarterback in the league. You need to be the number 1 seed. You need to win your division, et cetera, et cetera. Offensive Player of the Year, we've seen up until like 2018, very often that it could be either a double dip for the best quarterback with just a monster season, right? Peyton Manning in 2013. He just such an incredible season that it was easy MVP, and he was the best offensive player. DeMarco Murray won in 2014, but then Cam Newton with his MVP season won it. Matt Ryan, just an insane season in 2016, and then Patrick Mahomes again in 2018. Well, the last 4 years, it's been basically the biggest bust out skill position guy at either running back or receiver. Michael Thomas, who had that set the all-time record for receptions with the Saints in 2019. Derrick Henry had the 2,000 yard season in 2020. Cooper Kupp in 2021 with that ridiculous year. And then Justin Jefferson last season. So to me, the best way to focus on this is to look at either a running back or a wide receiver, unless we think that the voting patterns have changed. Like if Josh Allen goes out and throws for 5,000 passing yards and 50 touchdowns, he's going to win he's going to win both the awards, right? Like there's just nothing you can do about it. But in lieu of that, I think the way to, and the odds back this up, the highest quarterback is Justin Fields at 20 to 1. He has the same odds for Offensive Player of the Year and MVP. I'd much rather bet him to win Offensive Player of the Year, because you do need to have a good team season, but you don't have to be the best team in football to win Offensive Player of the Year. Lamar Jackson, 25 to 1, Joe Burrow, 25 to 1, Jalen Hurts, 30 to 1. Those are your quarterbacks. Think about where those guys are relative to their MVP odds. They're jacked up because the belief now is that we're going to see a skill position guy win this. For me, this is so easy at the top. Christian McCaffrey at 15 to 1. And we can all say him. I don't even care. Like, we don't have to be different here. I can't believe he's not the favorite to win this award. He is on a team that's really good with like the 3rd best Super Bowl odds or 4th best Super Bowl odds. It has been shown in a half season when he was traded, and he's like suited up 3 days after he was like 3 days after the deal actually went done and played and had a great game, that he can perform this Kyle Shanahan offense. Kyle Shanahan's going to move him around. He's going to have him in the backfield. He's going to have him split out. He's going to catch a ton of passes. He's going to run for a ton of yards. 15 to 1 is good value. He should be like 8 to 1 in my opinion to win this award. So for me, that's like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
In terms of betting on that. If you believe that Christian McCaffrey can be what he was supposed to be over the full course of a season, my mid-tier guys that I'll go with: Austin Eckler, 40 to 1. Chargers could be a 12-win team with old Beachbody Stafford. Finish second in that division in the AFC West. You don't have to win the division, and Eckler scores 20 touchdowns. And it'd be an easy pick, especially with the narrative that running backs don't matter. And you have a big running back season. They want to reward the running backs. Maybe Eckler is the play. I like CeeDee Lamb as well. I don't think I mentioned him in the rundown, but I think CeeDee Lamb at 35 to 1 if the Cowboys end up having a big season, and we've seen with Mike McCarthy play called offenses that sometimes, especially with Aaron Rodgers and his targets, locking in on one guy as the alpha receiver. CeeDee Lamb could end up having a monster year. And then my long shot, Calvin Ridley, 60-1. Parlay it if you want. Just kidding. Don't parlay. It's Calvin Ridley laugher if you like those. But I think Calvin Ridley 60-1, especially if like Lawrence. Lawrence needs to have a big year, but not win MVP because they want to spread the awards around. But I think Ridley, like 60-1, that dude, he could be a monster in that offense. So those are my 3 picks there.
I think for offensive player of the year, I'm gonna go with the guy that's kind of like this era's version of either Curtis Martin or Barry Sanders. Susan Lucci, he's never going to get the rushing title because Derrick Henry is always right there, and that's what Tennessee does. But Nick Chubb quietly averages over 5 yards a carry every time. And it's just amazing to watch him just run because he doesn't have the swag. He doesn't wear gloves. Nothing about him looks like, oh, I'm going to go grab that Nick Chubb jersey. But he's super productive and super explosive, super dynamic, and is hella consistent. And I feel like if Watson is having the season I expect him to have, that means Chubb is going to have a fantastic season as well, too. And I think people underestimate how good you have to be to average 5 yards a carry in this era, in this style of offense that they run. So I like Nick Chubb as my favorite. My mid-tier guy is a San Francisco 49er, but it's Deebo Samuel. Oh. And watching Deebo Samuel just play football, he's like, if I could use a basketball reference, I would say he's someone just get buckets. Like he a hooper, right? And so when you watch him just go out there, he just be playing football. Doesn't matter if he's technically lined up as a wide receiver or listed as a wide receiver or as a running back. He just finds ways to get yards and put the ball in the paint. So for me, when you watch Deebo and just watch him have a phenomenal season at any position in crucial moments, make those clutch plays, I feel like he has a chance to really, especially now that he dropped weight, he got in better shape and all that good stuff that they love to say in the offseason. He's my mid-tier guy. I would be willing to put some money on. Long shot, funny enough, is Justin Herbert because all the passing yards. I don't think Eckler to me is funny money because they don't want to run the ball at all. And Eckler is not really that dominant at running the football. They want to throw it, and they got weapons galore. They always have weapons at wide receiver and at tight end. Their offensive line, I think, is very underrated, especially what they've added recently on the interior. He should throw for over 5,000 yards. And we know the league they want him to be great. So they're going to give him something. If he's throwing for over 5,000 yards and has 40 plus touchdown passes and, cuts down on the fourth quarter intercepts with the game on the line, then, they'll find a way to give him this award because the stats will prove it. He'll have the wow plays. And I think that's something, especially at plus 3,000, to me, is a nice long shot that could potentially hit.
I love that Deebo pick, actually. And I do think that, with Christian McCaffrey coming to San Francisco, Deebo doesn't want to be outshined. He was the wide back beforehand. He didn't have a bad season last season, but I think Christian McCaffrey took a lot of that shine away. So it seems to be that he's really motivated to show that he is just as good. So I do really like that pick. Obviously, we know with me, Christian McCaffrey is the favorite. Like I've said it on this program probably no less than 50 times. So we don't need to go into that again. I also think Tyreek Hill is kind of interesting here at plus 2,000. He's coming off the best year of his career, and he didn't even have Tua the entire time. Now, this is under the assumption that Tua is healthy and Tua has a good year. There's no reason to think that Tyreek Hill should not be a contender for this. And at plus 2,000, I really like that value. And when I look at someone like Devontae Adams at plus 3,000, put some respect on Jimmy Garoppolo's name, okay? This guy had 14 touchdowns last year with Derek Carr. And if Jimmy Garoppolo knows how to do anything, it's to get the ball to the star wide receiver. He can do this. And look, it's only the preseason, but what we've seen from the Raiders is that they do have depth. I think their backups are better than a lot of backups that we've seen. So Raiders might be sneaky, not terrible this year. And you look at someone like Devontae Adams at plus 3,000. I just think that's too much to give him. So I love that one.
There's actually a speaking of like old school NFC West guys, there's actually a guy in the NFC West that I love for Defensive Player of the Year. Who is it? I will tell you next, coming up after the break.
Driving into the stadium, seeing everybody tailgating, I get that ready to go feeling.
To walk through the fan section over there and see that many people excited about football, so I'm really looking forward to it.
You get away from football for a little bit and then you start missing and you get that itch again.
For me, that first catch is everything. Once I get one catch, I'm in the zone.
Getting back to football.
It's been too long.
We can't wait.
Can't wait. We can't wait. We can't wait.
Welcome back to the Pick Six Podcast. Katie Mox, Will Brinson, and Emory Hunt here. All right, guys, let's move on to Defensive Player of the Year. When you look at these odds, Nick Bosa, coming off his first win, has the fifth best odds at plus 1,100. At least he did on Caesars. We'll see what it pulls up here on DraftKings. Micah Parsons is the favorite at, what does it say, plus 500 there? Plus 500.
5-1. Yeah, 5-1 for Parsons, 8-1 for Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, 8.5, 12 for Nick Bosa. 15 for Sauce, 20-1 for Max Crosby, 25-1 for Chris Jones, Aaron Donald, Aiden Hutchinson, and Hassan Reddick.
This is actually a good lesson to make sure that you guys are line shopping, because I got all of my odds from Caesars today. They're different here.
Vastly different.
Yeah, so different. So make sure if you like something, look at all the books that you have money in and bet with the best line that you can get there. Okay, one more trivia question for the fellas. And this one, I think is pretty easy. Okay. How many times has a Watt brother won Defensive Player of the Year?
I believe the answer is 4.
That is correct. 4. Now, who can name what years and assign a name to it?
Okay, so TJ Watt won in 2021.
Correct.
JJ Watt won in 2010.
Nope.
11.
Nope.
12.
Yes.
12 was with the New York Super Bowl with the damn it. I knew that because I was there for that one because Rodgers won MVP that year and Olivia Munn showed up and we were all like, oh my God, Olivia Munn, oh my God. No, not a good. Okay, that was what I sounded like. I was like geeking out, like, oh my God.
All right,
oh my
so
God.
2012.
2014.
Yes.
And 2015.
Correct.
Oh, not bad.
Not bad.
I knew it was 3 or 4. I just couldn't remember the year it started. It was when I started covering.
Okay. All right. Yes. All right. So let's go.
Actually, ironically, I have the list of Defensive Player of the Year literally open on my computer. I was too stupid to look down and figure out what years it was.
Well,
I wish I had.
We know you're not a cheater.
That's
You're
right.
not a cheater. So that's good to know. Okay, let's go in reverse this time. Emory, first give us your long shot, then your mid-range, and then your favorite for Defensive Player of the Year.
My long shot is Kayvon Thibodeau. I expect this dude to go off this year. Like, I'm talking 15 sack going off. You know what I'm saying? Like, his body looks different. I've been at training camp. His body looks different. He actually looks like he put on some good pro weight. Last year, his pass looked like he was wearing them Jim Thorpe pants. It was all baggy. You're like, man, he looks skinny. But now he's filled out his frame. He's back to what he looked like at Oregon. And his twitch is still there. The power is still there. He's not dealing with any kind of nagging injury issues that lingered into last season. This dude should have a phenomenal season. So that's my long shot. My mid-tier guy is Aiden Hutchinson. I feel like Hutchinson, if we're expecting Detroit to do things better this year and get to the playoffs, we all, I think, believe that Detroit will either win the division or get to the playoffs. I feel like Aiden Hutchinson will have one of those years. We saw this dude catch interceptions last year, sacks. He's making game-changing plays that need to be made at the right time. So I'm always big on guys having those wild plays. Just like with the Heisman Trophy, you better have those wild moments. Hutchinson has a chance to do that, which how much Detroit we're going to be watching this season. And I'm not going to play around with the favorite. I'm going with Micah Parsons. This is someone that's going to probably approach 20 sacks this season with how dynamic he is and has been since stepping foot on the field. When it was funny because when he was coming out of college, remember he set out that year. And so I didn't have him as my number one inside linebacker. I didn't think he was playing inside linebacker. I didn't know if he was going to be playing outside or inside. I didn't know he was going to play edge, which is a whole different separate position.
No one did when they drafted him. He would have gone like second overall.
Right, it was like, yo, what he's going to play? So totally whiffed on that evaluation. But man,
Same.
him at edge has been a godsend. That's like Von Miller, like, you know, when he was out there. So this dude's going to have a phenomenal season. I expect the Cowboys defense to be good as well.
I like that. My long shot, and it's not a terrible long shot, and you'll have to help me because when I was on Caesars, Aaron Donald was listed at plus 2,600. What does it say there on the screen?
25-1 for Donald. Yeah.
25-1. Anytime you can get Aaron Donald considered a sleeper, you're going to have to go ahead and take that. And I know that the Rams are not supposed to be good this year. They're in retooling, but Donald missed some time last year, but this guy is an absolute beast and he's always going to be up there for me. So I like him as a little bit of a long shot. Middle tier, probably not going to happen. Nick Bosa, 11-1 at Caesars. What is he here, Brinson?
12-1. I think that's
a little better odds. To go back to back. I mean, Nick.
I was gonna say just on the archetype thing. We talk about that, and look, you got to be a special player. But since 2014, we mentioned the 2 JJ Watt years. Aaron Donald won back-to-back years, and then won a third time. So voter fatigue for Defensive Player of the Year is not a factor. If you have that great a season, they will run it right back with the guy who won the year before.
Okay, I love that. And I do think that the Niners defense, again, number one in the league. We'll see how they are under Steve Wilkes, but I like that. And then also TJ Watt. I'm going back to the Watt farm here. And if he's on this list, I'm always going to take him. I know he isn't exactly the favorite, plus 700 or what is he, plus
8.5 to 1. Yeah, I mean,
8.5 better odds here on DK than on Caesars until last season, where he had a low of 5.5 sacks due to obviously tearing his pectoral muscle. He finished in the top 3 of Defensive Player of the Year voting in 4 consecutive years before he won in 2021. Like you said, Brinson, there isn't exactly voter fatigue for this category. And you just look at what the Steelers look like when he's playing versus when he's not. He played in 10 games last year. They went 8-2. He missed 7 games. They went 1-6 in those games. This guy is an absolute game changer. So I like TJ Watt as my favorite.
So just really quickly on the archetype too, like every year since 2011, which is the new CBA, which is what I like to look at when talking about these awards, it's been a pass rusher except for 2 seasons. Luke Kuechly in 2013, he just had it was Luke Kuechly. Like he stepped on the scene, won Defensive Rookie of the Year, and then second season just had another monster year and won Defensive Player of the Year. And then 2019, when Stephon Gilmore won it for the Patriots at cornerback. So you want to bet on pass rushers. Like Gilmore's year, there were just really it was kind of like there was we don't know who to vote for. There's not a great option, but Gilmore led the league in interceptions, 20 passes defense. He was great on an elite defense. And then Kuechly again, barring a really, really great season from like a linebacker, or a cornerback, or like a lack of a big season from a pass rusher, which is really unlikely to occur in a 17-game year where teams are dropping back 65% of the time, you want to bet on these pass rushers. That is the way you should go with this award, is to pick pass rushers. Both of you guys picked 3, and I have 3 as well. Long shot wise, I'm going to go, I think I like what Emory went, but I'm going to go right next to him and go with Bradley Chubb, my guy out of NC State. Dolphins could surprise some people, win that division. If they do, and he has a great season rushing the passer, you can see, and the analytics help now these days where you can say, oh, he's great against the run, et cetera, et cetera. In terms of the mid-range guy, I actually went Aaron Donald at 25-1 or 26-1. Again, I think Katie's spot on. It's like anytime you can bet on Aaron Donald at 25-1 or longer, take a shot on it, because they don't have to be great. The Rams, if Aaron Donald has an Aaron Donald year, the voters will reward him. And I think they're more than willing to do that versus like giving him a comeback player of the year. I had Hassan Reddick on that list too. I think he's a little banged up and he's having surgery, so probably don't want to bet on him. I think I would probably go to Nick Bosa, who as long as he gets contractually taken care of, 12-1. He had gotten paid, right? I didn't miss that, did he? He's still
no, he hasn't. He's going to. I think he's going to be the highest paid. Nobody's worried about it. Yeah.
If he gets paid, he's under 10-1. So like if he gets paid and we know he's going to play the full season, he probably drops under 10-1. So now would be the time to bet Nick Bosa before that deal comes in the start of the year. Offensive Rookie of the Year. Also an archetype for this.
Yeah.
If you look at it, it's got to be, you can be a quarterback and win it. You ain't got to be on a good team. Justin Herbert won it. Beachbot Stafford won it at 6-10. Kyler Murray won it at 5-10-1. Emory, what do you think in terms of long shots, mid-range, and favorites here?
Well, I feel like Herbert won it because of how he had to get the job. I mean, they told him like what right before kickoff, hey man, you got to go in.
Because they stabbed Tyrod Taylor in the kidney.
we had attempted murder happening over here. Like you got to go in, So and he went out there and lit it up. So, but for me, it's like, hold on, let me put my collar up because people know I ain't playing with y'all. Anthony Richardson winning this one. This is my favorite because I also like the Colts to win the division, right? And so for me, and we know how this is. It's no different than MVP or anything like that. If a team is doing well, quarterback will get the credit. And it just so happened to have a rookie quarterback. And if he's playing well, we know the Colts, I think, have a lot of good personnel pieces around on both sides of the ball. They'll give it to Anthony Richardson. That's my favorite. My mid-tier guy is Jahmyr Gibbs because I feel like he's going to have so much fun running up and down the field on that turf in Detroit indoors. In the at Ford Field. Then he gets to play indoors in Minnesota. It's going to be fun to watch him just tear it up all throughout the season. I didn't go rubber stamp with Bijan Robinson because I know that's an easy thing, and people kind of just rubber stamp Bijan Robinson as RB1 and all kind of just like kind of people rubber stamp. There's one football show that everybody claims they love, but is really awful. It shall remain nameless.
Is this about like a team, one team every year?
Right, exactly. Right. If you win all state because you're the only team in the state, that's what I'm referring to. Good call right there, Will. And my long shot is Trey Palmer, wide receiver for Tampa Bay. Big fan of him coming out of Nebraska. Big fan of him because he's also from New Orleans, so I know you got that dog in him. And you
2 preseason touchdowns.
Yeah, exactly. And they've been wild touchdowns too at plus 6,000. And with Tampa, I kind of like Baker Mayfield throwing the ball deep down the field. I feel like Baker Mayfield is being underrated a little bit with Tampa Bay. I think Trey Palmer is going to surprise some folks, and people are going to say, well, how did he fall this far in the draft? So why not throw a couple shekels on plus 6,000 according to Caesar's odds?
I like that. I agree with you on Anthony Richardson. That's been my favorite for a long time. And I will say a month ago on Caesars, he was 9-1. And now what are we looking at him here? Plus 600. So you could have got him for better. But all the reasons that you said, Emory, I think, in a Shane Steichen-led offense, we saw how he was able to develop Jalen Hurts with the Eagles. You got to think that there's a huge upside for Richardson here. So love him as a favorite. And then I don't have a third one, but I like Zay Flowers at Caesars at plus 20. Plus 2,500, I believe, is plus 3,000.
30-1 at DraftKings. Yep.
Yeah, and look, the past 2 offensive rookies of the years have gone to receivers, so why not make it a third with Zay Flowers? And you look at this Ravens new look offense with Flowers and OBJ is like, what a great mentor that he has been to him, and they're getting along really well. And then you got a new offensive coordinator in Todd Monken. You finally got rid of Greg Roman. So this offense is generating a ton of buzz right now. I think they're going to be a much more pass-heavy team than they have been in the past. And you look at someone like Flowers, he had 78 passes, over 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns with a crappy quarterback in college last year. And now he's got Lamar Jackson, who I think is going to have a big breakout year. So I like Zay Flowers at, what do you say, 30-1?
Yeah, I would throw out too. Like again, like I agree. Zay Flowers at 30-1, great. I like Quentin Johnson at 22-1. Jalen Hyatt, a good long shot at 40-1 with the Giants. We saw him catch. He had a really bad drop on Friday night against Carolina in the preseason. Followed up immediately by absolutely smoking Eric Rowe and getting deep, wide open for a touchdown. I believe from Tyrod Taylor. And so that the rookie out of Tennessee could be a pretty good look. The problem with anybody who's not a quarterback. Mentioned it before. We've seen the wide receivers win it in the last 2 years. We've seen running backs win it. I think it's 3 wide receivers, 4 running backs, and 5 quarterbacks, maybe 5 running backs since 2011. You have to die. If you are betting on anybody at a wide receiver or running back position here, you have to dodge like 5-win competent seasons from Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, and CJ Stroud. And 2 of those guys are in the same division, which I guess could cannibalize each other. Yeah. But like to me, Bryce Young at 5-1, that's where the biggest investment should be. Carolina has a pretty easy schedule. If they don't have to win the division, if they win 7 games and Bryce Young plays the whole season and doesn't get killed behind this offensive line, he should get serious consideration for that award. So I think Bryce Young, and I really like Quentin Johnson, Zay Flowers, and Jalen Hyatt. I believe that's all of the rookie looks that I had. Oh, Tank Bigsby, 50-1. Don't hate it all.
Yeah.
He's gotten a ton of run so far in the preseason, has looked fantastic. And if something happens to Travis Etienne, he could be the feature back for a top tier team in the Jaguars. He also could just be the guy around the goal line and get all those high value carries for the Jags too.
I love it. All right, let's move on to Defensive Rookie of the Year. Last year, Sauce Gardner took home the honors by considerable margin with 242 points in 46 first place votes. This award has been dominated by first round picks, with Colts linebacker Shaq Leonard is the only non-first round selection in the past 16 seasons who got the award. Leonard also the only linebacker to win the award in the past decade. Emory, who's your favorite?
I'm not playing around. Will Anderson. We had reached the point of the draft cycle where people were asking, is Will Anderson actually good? It's like stop, bro. Like every time, like I hate when you have the consensus number one to where he should sit out the year and go straight to the NFL. The NCAA is bad to the point where you say, well, he's not really that good. Like shut up, man. All of this stuff is just nonsense. I think he's gonna win Rookie of the Year. That's my favorite. My mid-tier guy, I'm not deviating away because he can also be the favorite.
Anderson, by the way, had a really good week 2 preseason game too.
Yeah, don't ever ask a running back to block a defensive end. You pushing it by asking us to block a linebacker. Like you don't ask us to block, period. Like so, Jalen Carter is my mid-tier guy. He's so good. Every time we watched him at Georgia, he was just in the backfield. Even when you had other stars around him. Within that defense, you always focused on him, and he's off to a great start in Philly. My long shot is he may end up being in a higher gun role for the New York Jets, and that's Will McDonald, the pass rusher. He may not start, but he may be a situational pass rusher, and if he's played throughout the season like he's played so far in the preseason, it's hard for people to ignore. And plus, we already know, we talked about this all episode, Aaron Rodgers, they're winning, MVP, Sauce Gardner may be defensive player of the year, again. And now you could look at, we got to get a Jets a rookie. It could be all synergy for the Jets, for the hard knock Jets. So I'm going with McDonald as a long shot.
The long shot I'm going to throw out Marte Mapu for the Patriots, 100-1. You got a Sacramento State mid-round pick with Bill Belichick. Like he's been like, this is just like would be too classic Belichick. And I want the FOMO. I want to be able to like tell. It might even be longer now at this point. It could be shorter. I haven't looked at DraftKings in a while. 3rd round pick, like, I don't know. This is just like a quintessential Belichickian pick. Like the Patriots defense is really good, and Mapu comes in there and makes a huge difference. I'm a Drew Sanders honk. I think if used correctly and like just asked to be like a situational pass rusher who's not thinking too much and just send him off the edge, Drew Sanders for the Broncos could make sense. I guessing he's well past 30-1 now. He was 30-1 a while ago. Who knows exactly how much time he's going to get. I don't think the Will Anderson thing, anything's wrong. Jack Campbell at 14-1. This guy's all over the place. They called his name 50 times, I feel like, during that preseason game on Saturday afternoon. If the Lions are great and Campbell is racking up tackles, you could see that happening. First round pick fits that sort of archetype as well. But then Emmanuel Forbes at 20-1 now. Numbers drifted down a little bit. He had 6 pick sixes, which is very on brand for this podcast. 6 pick sixes. 6 pick sixes in a season for Mississippi State. Like, if this dude houses 3 pick sixes, he houses 3 interceptions this year, he's going to win the award. And at 20-1, like, that's the sort of attention where, like, if you score touchdowns, if you score points for your team on defense as a rookie, you are going to get a lot of attention. This is a good defense in Washington that's not going to ask him to be like the standout number 1 corner, like the guy who is sort of like a lockdown anchor. It doesn't have to be like Sauce Gardner last year. So I think the possibility, the tantalizing possibility of pick sixes make him interesting for me.
All right, I like that. Again, I have like a favorite, and then I have a middle tier / long shot.
I think you just explain why you like whoever you like, honestly.
Yeah,
like,
it's not exactly that there are 3, but I know that pass rushers are typically viewed as the favorites here, but I'm going cornerbacks for a couple of these, and they have got some love in recent years. I'm looking first at Witherspoon at plus, I think he's at plus 1,000, plus 1,100. I don't know what it is on those odds there, but One, I just look at him in this Seahawks defense, and I think he is going to start, first of all, because in the last 5 years, the winner of the award has logged at least 76% or more of the team's defensive snaps. I do think that he's going to start this season opposite Tariq Woolen. He's coming off of a season last year in Illinois where he had 14 pass breakups, 3 interceptions. You look at the Seahawks schedule, and they're going against some gunslingers, right? You got Burrow, Stafford, Jared Goff, Dak Prescott. He could be primed for some big interceptions and certainly breaking up some passes here. I certainly think he's going to have the ability to do so. So I like him for this. I feel, why am I like really big on this screen?
I don't know.
Right here. Yeah. Well, thank you, Billy, for the extra airtime here. But also for more of a long shot, I'm looking at Joey Porter Jr. With the Steelers. I believe he's at plus 2,000. They haven't had a defensive rookie of the year since 2001 with Kendrell Bell. He has the best odds of any of the second round picks. I know we talk about this, how this particular category, it's a lot of first round picks. But I think he could have gone in the first round. And certainly he slid down the draft a bit. A lot of draft analysts thought that he would be selected in the first round. I think he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. Also, when you look at wow, what's Billy? We're doing like Hollywood squares here. I like it. But when you look at Pittsburgh, right, they're so dominant up front. And what does that do to quarterbacks? Well, it forces them to get the ball out faster, leaving a lot of room for this secondary to shine with either pass deflections or some interceptions. So I'm kind of going the cornerback route on this one. I think Joey Porter Jr. At plus 2,000 is kind of a sneaky pick. All right. And we are going to toss to break right here. We are next going to talk about Coach of the Year and Comeback Player of the Year. You might think that Damar Hamlin is a lock, and he definitely is, but we'll have some more picks after the break.
The man, the myth, the Messi. Catch Inter Miami take on FC Cincinnati in the U.S. Open Cup on the all-new Golazo Network.
All right. Coach of the Year. Love Coach of the Year bets. Why? Because there's tons of value on them. Like the favorite starts at 10-1. It's, it's like normally you get like 5-1 for Defensive Player of the Year. You get like whatever it is. And now you get 10-1. Sorry, 8. Dan Campbell has drifted down to 8.5-1 and Sean Payton 9-1. So I take that back. But I mean, depending on where you look, Caesar still has Arthur Smith, the favorite, at 10-1. So if you like Arthur Smith, obviously go to DraftKings 14-1 there. If you like Sean Payton, 12-1 at Caesars, 9-1 at DraftKings. This is not reflective of like any particular sports book. It's just simply the odds are different in different places. Like maybe DraftKings have been peppered by Sean Payton bets, and so they've got a bunch of they got exposure to Sean Payton. They creep the number down. So Emory, your favorites, long shots, or just anybody you think is worth discussing in this context.
I feel like Dan Campbell could swing this to the negative, to a heavy favorite, if they just let him coach on the sideline with his Ford 6500 truck, with drinking a liquid death in a black T-shirt, right? They just let him just be Dan Campbell. But my favorite is kind of tied to my Rookie of the Year because they tend to be one and the same. We've seen this happen before. Shane Steichen will be my pick for Coach of the Year, my favorite, because I expect them to have success. I expect them to win the division. I expect Anthony Richardson to play well. He's going to get the credit for help developing the raw rookie out of Florida. They're going to have a lot of offensive success. I like Steichen to win it. My mid-tier guy, kind of what you talked about earlier, Will, you kind of laid it out perfectly for Sean Payton. If he can fix Russell Wilson or fix this offense, if this offense could just average 20 points a game instead of 4, they'll be fine. Like they'll win a lot of games. Their defense is still going to be good. He's going to have some guys that's going to step up and make plays, like Jaleel McLaughlin, rookie running back out of Youngstown State, formerly of Notre Dame College in Ohio. So he's someone I think is going to make the roster. And Sean Payton always has these guys that come out of nowhere and have success. I think he's a good, solid mid-tier option. My long shot is Sean McVay, because we know he gives off heavy youth summer camp counselor vibes, but the guy can coach his butt off on the football field. And so if he gets this Ram team over 6.5 wins, and if they're flirting around that 7th playoff spot, in like week 13 or 14, you got to give them credit because this team is about as young as UCLA, right? Because this is a rookie-laden team on the 2 deep. So I like him as my long shot at earlier today was plus 3,500 on Caesars. I'll be interested to see where it is now.
Yeah.
So the one thing about Coach of the Year too is like basically I think I looked it up and the average number is like 3.5 wins over the past 10 years or something, where the coach, you exceed your win total expectation, right, by 3.5. And so good list by Emory there, because you don't want to like, and I mean, Katie, if you have Andy Reid, I don't want to F you up here, but if Andy Reid wins 14 games, you're like, so his over under is 11.5, right? You've got to win like 14 games or 13, 14 games and like be so dominant. And people are still give credit to, like, it's why Bill Belichick and Mike Krzyzewski never won Coach of the Year. It's because the expectations were already so high that it was difficult to pull off. So like Belichick this year is actually a pretty decent look. For me, the top of the list, Emory mentioned Sean Payton 9-1. I got no problem going to Sean Payton. Like their win total is 8.5. If they win 10 or 11 games, and you don't have to be 3.5. We've seen 1.5 pull it off, but an average 3.5. Some guys do it by 5 wins or something like that. In fact, Brian Dable 2 last year, Mike Vrabel 2.5 over their expected total, Kevin Stefanski 2.5, Harbaugh 5.5, Nagy 4.5, McVay 5, Jason Garrett 4.5, Ron Rivera 6.5, Bruce Arians 3.5, and Rivera 5. So like that's the range you need to be in for your win, like to exceed your win total expectation. I think Sean Payton can clearly do that. We've seen the success he had in New Orleans. He doesn't have to win the division. If Russell Wilson is a lot better, Sean Payton's going to get a lion's share of that credit. I think Frank Reich 25-1. I know I'm just all over the Panthers here with Bryce Young at 5-1, but like if Frank Reich wins that division, that's why Arthur Smith's 14-1 or 9-1, depending on where you look. If Frank Reich wins that division at 25-1 with a rookie quarterback in his first year, he is getting love for this award. And then for the same reason, I like McVay as well. I actually went with Mike Vrabel at 35-1 instead, though, just because I think the people are so down on the Titans that if Vrabel has a good year, you could see the Titans like if Vrabel coaches this Titans team up that everybody's out on, and they win 10 games, like when they won the number 1 seed or whatever. Like I think that is a good look as well.
I like those. And I agree with you guys that this is definitely a narrative-based awards, and the best coaches aren't even going to be in consideration, even though maybe they should. I like Chicago. Again, I like Eberflus at plus 1,300. I believe there it looks like he's 11-1. I feel like also rookie head coaches are favored on this a lot. Dable took home the honors last season, making him the 9th since 2000 to have a rookie head coach win that award. Eberflus, his first year with the Bears couldn't have been worse, like an utter disaster, the worst record in the league. However, if he can turn this around, which I think that they can, I think that he has a good chance of winning this. I mean, they really did well with the draft capital from dealing their number 1 overall. They added those pass catchers. We already talked about this when I was talking about Fields a little bit earlier. I think that Chicago can win the NFC North. And if they do, and they do a little bit better, coming from the worst team to now all of a sudden a good team, I like Eberflus there. I also like Robert Saleh, of course, at plus 1,600. Can't see exactly where he is there on this list. But look, the Jets have been a poverty franchise for a very long time. Robert Saleh comes in. They have a decent year last year. Now you get Aaron Rodgers. Let's say they go as far as I think they can go. Robert Saleh is kind of a good pick for that. And then, Brinson, we're high on DeMeco Ryans. It's a little bit concerning how many injuries the Texans have going on right now in the preseason. But DeMeco Ryans at 20-1 or wherever he is here, I think is going to be a good bet if the Texans do come out and have a good year.
DeMeco Ryans 25-1. I actually don't see. Oh, Saleh's 16-1. Sorry, I didn't even see that.
Yeah, I love that. All right, let's move on to comeback player of the year. Brinson, is there a world where Damar Hamlin does not win this? He's currently priced at minus 285. And then next up, you got Russell Wilson and Tua following with plus 2,000 odds. I mean, there's just, I don't know what would have to happen that Damar doesn't win.
Well, so here's the thing, though. Damar Hamlin is on the field now, and he is a great story to start the year. It's an incredible story. Don't get me wrong. Like coming back and playing
After dying, yeah. I mean,
After dying on the field, yes,
couldn't
pretty
be
good.
better.
Now there's some conspiracy theorists out there that think,
Oh,
I'm just
really?
kinda-
Never
have
heard
you not
Don't
heard
go
about
down
this?
that rabbit hole, Katie.
Oh, dude, they're so weird. They're
yeah,
like,
don't do it.
they think
Okay.
they think it was like faked by the NFL to like drum up ratings. It's just the most
Oh,
insane
God.
thing of all time. Um, ah, um, so I do think though that there is a case to be made that by the time that we get to January
Mhm.
and people are voting on this award, that you could make the case that there will be more surprising stories, and that just the people who are voting will think, of course, Damar Hamlin, the easy choice. But if he's that locked, why isn't he minus 10,000? You can bet minus 285. You don't want to lay that type of juice over a full
No.
season.
No.
But I think there's a case to be made that, in particular, a name on this list that just stands out to me in a big way. Now, I think Russell Wilson at 20-1 is a good bet. Russell Wilson, if Russell Wilson if they win 10 plus games after his stinker of a season and he plays well, Russell Wilson will be in the mix for this award, right? I mean, like, again, Damar Hamlin, great story now. It's a long time until January. Like, these things can flip overnight, and you can see people reward the on-field production. The other name that I think is just being slept on.
Okay.
John Mechie III. He's coming back from leukemia to
Okay,
play in the
yeah.
NFL after missing
But did he die though? Did he die though?
But
He
did
did not die.
That's the barometer. That's the meter that we're
Look,
using here.
Damar
That's
Hamlin is
for-
probably going to win it, but remember, Alex Smith won the award because he was forced into action after his broken leg. It was sort of like, all right, if Alex Smith has to play, then he's going to win this award. He didn't play until the end of the year when he had to play. Now, like, Damar Hamlin's been out on the field, but like Damar Hamlin's not going to be like a high impact player, right? I mean, we don't think that to be the case. Now, maybe he is, and I'm completely wrong, but I just think Mechie coming back from leukemia, from missing an entire season, if the Texans are better than we think, and he's like their number one receiver, and he's flashed some of the preseason, could absolutely be in the mix for this award. And then I think that you could probably take some shots. I mentioned these guys in the article as longer shots. I think you got to be a little careful here because, again, someone died, and then you got, Mechie coming back from leukemia. But Sam Darnold at 45-1 and Jamal Adams at 80-1. I think both guys just, you have, either Darnold's career that he's coming back from or Adams with the injury. If Darnold was like QB1 for San Francisco and they went 13-4, or 14-3 or something, like that's a legitimate case to be made that he wins the award. And then Jamal Adams of the Seahawks defense is like top 10 in the league. Again, you gotta overcome a lot of stuff here, but not as much as Damar Hamlin overcame to get back on the field.
But did he die though?
Did he die? No. Yeah.
That's gonna be the thing, man.
Probably.
I just hate that is you giving too much credit to these NFL writers that vote, these NFL voters, because they want to make their job. Hell, they be having their articles written before the game over with, right? So of course this
complaining when a game goes to overtime.
Exactly.
Oh!
Of course, come back. I think they should just name it the Damar Hamlin Trophy. That way you can split both ends, right? Because I could also make a case for Matt Stafford coming back. We saw how terrible the Rams looked last year without Stafford. You could also make a case for Lamar Jackson. You could even make a case for his teammate Odell Beckham Jr. But man, it's so hard to ignore what the league and media wants. We hyped up Damar Hamlin making a 1-yard TFL, against the Colts in preseason. Keep in mind, he had already been out there all training camp practicing, but now he's in the game. And then it was like, they want him to win it.
Yes.
So it is hard to ignore that force.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's Damar Hamlin's. But I also think that even Tua, at plus 2,000,
damn to die too.
Because everyone's talking about how he might die, if he gets another concussion, or he had those 2 concussions. It was very, very scary. League protocols have almost changed since that. So if he comes back, he's got a great season, no concussions. Miami, like you said, wins the division, goes on and does special things. I think Tua, narrative wise, has a lot of that going on with him too. And then it's so funny, Captain Spock says 2 49ers quarterbacks are on this list. Yeah, either Trey Lance or Sam Darnold could be interesting here. I mean, you think about Trey Lance, number 3 pick overall, gets injured. Jimmy Garoppolo comes in, Purdy takes his job. he doesn't look that good in the first preseason game. He's showing some, signs of potential specialness. Let's say, God forbid, something happens to Purdy, and then Trey Lance comes in there and he starts balling and he looks like that number 3 overall that San Francisco always wanted. At 35-1, I mean, I don't think that those odds are that bad too. Those, again, are on Caesars. I think it's a little bit different on DraftKings. But all right, guys, that is going. Yep.
Quickly, Mechie could also be in play for Rookie of the Year. If we go about it,
I don't think that you got to check on that, because I don't think that can, because that's the Blake Griffin thing. That's it's a good thought. That's how Blake in the NBA they do that. In the NFL they don't actually allow that. I don't think.
Okay. Well, our squares keep changing here. Billy's keeping us on our toes today, but that is going to wrap us for this show. Make sure you join us all week long for more NFL preseason coverage. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube page. For everyone listening to the audio version only, download, follow, leave a 5-star review, and tell your friends to listen and watch the pod. On behalf of myself, Will Brinson, and Emory Hunt, see you later.